your keepers.
It's a Munchausen.
Stockholm syndrome. That's
Stockholm,
what it's
okay.
called. It's where you're a prisoner, and the prison guards, you kind of become identified more with them than what you are. It's a really difficult place when you are living in a country that is telling you you are evil, you are wrong, you are nothing because of where your stand is. That I personally can understand why someone would really react strongly to keep the integrity of what they believe in and not cave into this.
Well, she's gone that far anyway. I mean, once you go that far to the Supreme Court and know that you're right, you automatically are aggressive. You're almost militant. In fact, wouldn't you agree she was a militant atheist?
Well, I've heard the phrase militant and atheist. They are almost synonymous in common culture today. And since I've never seen an atheist in the United States carrying around weapons or, being in the military.
Okay, social militant atheist. How does
Yeah.
that sound? She was absolutely a
She was in
social
your face, absolutely. She was also constantly under threat. I mean, we talked about the police beatings in there, and when we get to the end of the story and find out how she died, we find out that her fears and her concerns about the threats and the ugly hostility towards her were perfectly justified.
Well, I have to disagree with you there. I understand that the person that actually killed her wanted her money and had nothing to do with religion.
Oh, he had plenty to do with religion.
He did.
He did.
He was anti-religious because I thought that actually he was he was the treasurer or the bookkeeper for the organization, American Atheists.
He had been an employee of the organization for a short while. But in his statements, when they finally caught up to him, David Waters is his name, that's the one who ended up killing him, made it very clear, because this is Madalyn Murray O'Hair, because this is an atheist, she didn't have any value. It
really?
didn't bother me at all to take care of them
He
because
said
they
that?
weren't a real
Okay.
person.
Well, something new for me.
Yeah.
I did not know that particular. I thought it was over money. So
Now, that was another, I mean, there was money
was
involved.
motivation there.
There was certainly motivation.
I see.
But his reasoning was, this isn't a real person because it's an atheist.
Wow.
So
Well,
that's
let's take a look
sobering.
at the recent news, jump up to current. We're going to be jumping around a little bit. What about the man who went into the Unitarian Universalist Church back east? I think it was about 4 weeks ago. Right now it's the 1st of September in
Right,
2008.
right.
And he killed 2 people and wounded 6 people because he said that they were anti-religious or atheists, which kind of is right on the edge there.
Unitarians are
because
not atheists.
They're not atheists. They're agnostics, or they're free thinkers, or they're New Age people that believe in, other type of spirits maybe. But they were not. It wasn't an atheist gathering. But he was thinking that these people were evil.
Yes, he was. He did. And I think you need to look at, this is one reason why people adopt the label of atheist, because when they look around and they see religious role models, see religious leaders, and they see what the values are presented or promoted there, it gets turned off. And one of those values that you often see, especially in conservative religion, especially in majority religions, whether it's in Iran or the United States, there tends to be a culture of intolerance that comes up. You have to match what we define religion and Christianity to be, or else you're evil. You're the work of Satan. You are an atheist. An atheist has always been the favorite bugaboo label to give to anybody who the church or religious leaders felt was a threat to them.
That's exactly why I have started this program, to show people that are watching this that atheists are just like them. We have responsibilities, we have children, we have jobs, we have bills, we have depression just like anybody else in the average. The average people have depression. We're just like everybody else. It's almost as simple as like you like green jelly beans and I like blue ones. But we are still just as moral as you. We are still as moral as any religious person out there. In fact, in some respects, and I know this might even anger some devout religious people, we are actually more moral as atheists because we think about our surroundings and we have the courage to actually explore the world around us and value naturalism and materialism. Not materialism in the way of money, but materialism in the way of that nature has created this world, not a supernatural deity.
I agree.
And another thing is that I'd like to expand on that even more, is that if you take a look at prisons, now this might PO a little bit of religious people. a good barometer of behavior of particular religious groups is prisons. Prisons is where people go that cheat, that lie, that murder, that steal, that do all the bad things in life.
That we don't approve of in society.
That we, in this particular society, I know in other societies it's generally the same. There are some things like different marriage ages, for instance, and different condemnations or punishments for rape and other crimes. But in general, everybody does not murder in society, in civilized society. Generally, we have 75% of people, of the Christians in the United States, in the general population. And if you look at the prisons, now, if Christians are better morally than any other religious group, we should have less than 75% of them as a general population in prison.
That would make sense.
And turns out that, do you know the percentage in prison?
Of Christians?
Yes.
I don't know that.
It's 75%. Amazing. The Christians in prison are the same percentage in the general population of the prison as it is in the general population outside the prison. You would think that if the Christians were more moral, that there would be much less.
Smaller percentage.
Smaller percentage in prisons. Now let's take a look.
Versus atheists. Do you know
Well,
what
let's
those are?
take. Yes, I do, and this is what is very odd. Now, this particular poll, and there have been many polls over the last 20, 30 years of religious people going into prison. Remember, this poll was taken as the questionnaire was taken as the prisoners were going into prison, because they obviously don't want to put a group of Muslims next to a bunch of fundamentalist Christians. They're going to create a riot in the prison within 30 minutes. So this poll was taken before. Turns out there's 0.2% of atheists. Now,
0.2%
in
of prison
prisons,
inmates are atheists.
that's correct. As they go into prison, they stay there. Now, even if it's tenfold error on this, and we bumped it up to 2%, I'm a little skeptical of the 0.2 myself, but even if it's 2%, if we have 8 to 9% atheists in society, that's roughly a quarter, less than a quarter, and of course, if we take the 0.2%, that's less than, well, that's
phenomenal.
That's much less. Now, of course, the Christians or people that are devoutly religious would think that the atheists would have a much higher percentage. If you have 8%
if we're as amoral as they're
that's
presuming
right.
us to be, right?
A lot more people. So there should be more than 8% of atheists in prison.
We should be close to 50%.
That's
Filling the prison should be
right.
filled with atheists.
That's right.
Which is why they send chaplains all the time, because they presume they're all atheists there.
When I go out to the general public, when I fly on planes, when I talk to people from a restaurant, or if they notice a book, I actually tell them I am an atheist because I'm an atheist advocate. I show people that when they talk to me, I'm obviously somewhat intelligent, hopefully attractive enough to talk to for more than 30 seconds, and I can espouse my atheism in a way that shows them that it's okay to talk to atheists. We are not evil Satan worshipers. We are not immoral people that cheat, steal. We're just like everybody else.
But we are people who expect our civil rights to be honored just like everybody else.
That's why people say, well, why don't you just leave us alone and don't even talk about your particular worldview? And that's because that line is crossed. The line is crossed not by us. We don't pick fights. There is never a war that says, fight those guys and kill those guys because of atheism. Never in history has been a war that is devoted to atheism.
I've never heard of a battle between atheists and agnostics anywhere in
Well,
history.
have you ever heard of battles that say, God is meant for us to live and to kill those other guys?
Yeah, I have heard that.
Well, of course,
all of
Inquisition.
history is littered with that, from
That's
the
right. And
Crusades to the
Crusades,
religious
right.
wars. Oh, yeah.
That's right. In fact, I think more people have.
Didn't we
been
just
killed
hear
in
that about 6 years ago, actually, when we invaded Iraq?
Well, that too, but let's take a look at 8 years ago. Let's see, 7 years ago, 9/11. Even though I believe that was a political maneuver, the people that were actually being used to do that were devoutly religious.
Driven by their faith.
That's right. And if you would have met them, they did interviews with their family and friends. These people were just like us. They were just considerate. One was engaged. Most of them were engineers. It's just an incredible, pleasant people to be with, but they were so devout religiously that they took the lives of 3,000 people. And that, to me, shows exactly why the dangers of religion. Now, if a Christian would come up to me, what would they say? They would say, well, those people really weren't Christians, or those people really weren't religious. They were zealots. They were extremists. But isn't this where religion wants us to go? At the Baptist